Welcome to our channel, where we uncover the secrets of the most valuable Kennedy half-dollar coins, including the historic Bicentennial edition, coins that may look ordinary but can actually be worth a small fortune. Stick around as we reveal the fascinating stories and hidden values behind these iconic pieces. Let's begin with a coin that captures both history and memory, the kind of coin that feels less like ordinary change and more like a piece of America's story. The 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar isn't just another commemorative issue, it's a reminder of a time when the entire nation came together to honor 2 centuries of independence. For collectors, it represents one of the most memorable designs ever placed into circulation, and for everyday Americans in the mid-1970s, it became a symbol of pride right in their pockets. The mid-1970s was a unique time in American life. The country had faced difficulties, political challenges, economic uncertainty, and cultural change, but in 1976, the bicentennial celebration of American independence gave the entire nation something to rally around. Across cities and towns, parades were held, flags were flown, and Americans reflected on what it meant to be 200 years old as a nation. The U.S. Mint played its part by issuing special coins that year, 3 denominations redesigned with commemorative reverses, the quarter, the half dollar, and the dollar. Each carried the dual date, 1776 to 1976, a first for U.S. coinage. For the half dollar, the front remained the same familiar portrait of John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts and first issued in 1964 after the president's tragic assassination. That portrait had already become a deeply meaningful image in American households, but the reverse was something entirely new. The Mint had called for designs through a national competition, and the winning reverse for the half dollar came from artist Seth G. Huntington. He chose Independence Hall, the historic building in Philadelphia where both the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution were debated and adopted. Huntington's design is detailed yet balanced. The stately image of Independence Hall sits at the center, with the words, 200 Years of Freedom, proudly above. Around the edge are the inscriptions, United States of America, and half dollar. Most striking of all is the date, 1776 to 1976, reminding every person who held it that they were living through a historic anniversary. The Mint produced these coins in huge numbers. Billions of copper-nickel-clad half-dollars were struck for circulation at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, carrying either no mint mark or a D. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Mint produced collector versions in both proof and uncirculated finishes, including special 40% silver-clad coins sold directly to collectors. But while the production was large, not all coins were equal. Most entered circulation, where they were spent, nicked, scratched, and worn down just like ordinary change. A far smaller number were carefully preserved, tucked into envelopes, boxes, or protective cases. Within that smaller group, an even smaller number emerged as exceptionally well-struck, perfectly preserved, or possessing unique characteristics that made them stand out to collectors decades later. Over the years, collectors began to notice which examples stood out. A coin's condition, measured by grading services like PCGS and NGC, became the dividing line between a coin worth face value and one worth thousands. Circulation strikes with ordinary ware remained common and are still easily found today. But coins graded mint state 67, 68, or higher, especially those with strong luster, clean fields, and sharp detail, became extremely scarce. Proof versions with deep cameo contrast, showing frosted devices against mirrored fields, also rose in desirability. Auction history tells the story best. Examples of the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar have surfaced at major sales, with collectors bidding aggressively for the finest survivors. Silver-clad pieces kept in storage for decades that emerged without the haze or spotting so common on others proved especially valuable. Each time such a coin appears, it reminds the collecting world that while the bicentennial half dollar is familiar, its finest versions are treasures. As decades have passed, the Bicentennial Kennedy half dollar has remained one of the most recognized commemorative coins ever issued. Unlike other commemoratives that were produced in small numbers, this one was seen and held by millions, making it instantly familiar even to non-collectors. Yet that familiarity only enhances the surprise when people learn that the rarest and best preserved examples are worth far more than most would guess. As we look at the market for these coins now, the pattern is clear. While the majority of bicentennial half dollars remain common, those preserved in exceptional quality, certified at the very top levels, or struck in silver with stunning cameo-proof finishes, have soared in value. They are not just half dollars anymore, they are pieces of numismatic art that stand as proof of what careful preservation and rarity can mean over time. One particular example demonstrated just how far collectors will go to secure such a treasure. Preserved in perfect condition, with flawless surfaces and unmatched eye appeal, it crossed the auction block and set a new benchmark for value. In the end, the hammer price stunned many who had underestimated just how much demand exists for the very best. That coin sold for $119,000. The 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar stands as a reminder of history, a tribute to President Kennedy, and a celebration of 2 centuries of independence. From ordinary circulation pieces to rare auction stars, it is a coin that continues to matter almost 50 years after it was struck. Stay with us, because the next coin we'll explore has its own fascinating story waiting to be told. Up next, we turn our attention to the 1973 Kennedy half dollar, a coin that quietly bridges a fascinating chapter in American numismatic history. While it may look like a common piece of circulating currency, its background tells a story of transition, symbolism, and enduring respect for President John F. Kennedy. Collectors often see this coin not just as a piece of change but as a representation of an era shaped by remembrance, pride, and change in America's monetary system. The Kennedy half dollar had already been circulating for nearly a decade when the 1973 issue was struck, but this particular year is special for several reasons. One of the key details that sets the 1973 version apart is that it was not issued for general circulation. Instead, these coins were produced exclusively for collector sets, which immediately gave them a unique status from the start. Unlike many other half dollars that were used in everyday commerce, the 1973 issue was kept away from pocket change, preserved instead in mint and proof sets. This decision instantly separated it from millions of ordinary coins that passed through hands daily, adding a sense of exclusivity that would carry into the future. The design itself remains iconic, with Gilroy Roberts' portrait of Kennedy on the obverse, capturing his determined gaze, and Frank Gasparo's heraldic eagle on the reverse, showcasing American pride and resilience. Even though the design had been familiar since 1964, the fact that it continued in use speaks to its lasting significance. To many Americans, the Kennedy half dollar became a way of honoring the late president every single day, a constant reminder of the hope, leadership, and tragedy that defined his era. In 1973, that sentiment was still strong, and those who received these coins in sets often kept them untouched, aware they were holding on to something more symbolic than simple currency. Another fascinating element lies in the context of the time. By 1973, silver had been completely removed from regular circulation strikes, meaning these coins were now made from copper and nickel clad. However, the mint also catered to collectors' desires by producing special 40% silver-proof issues, which appealed to those who cherished the idea of precious metal in their coinage. These proof coins, often housed in their original government packaging, carried a brilliance and richness that made them especially desirable. For collectors, the 1973 half dollar became a marker of transition, the end of silver as a standard in U.S. coinage, but the beginning of a new era where collector demand played a more dominant role. Condition, as always, plays a massive role in determining value. While many 1973 Kennedy half dollars exist in collector sets, finding one in flawless, high-grade condition with no haze, toning, or contact marks is much more challenging. Proof coins with sharp deep cameo contrast are particularly breathtaking, displaying frosted details against mirror-like fields. Such coins don't just reflect artistry, they capture the eye in a way that makes them unforgettable. For a collector, owning such a piece is like holding history polished to perfection. Grading services such as PCGS and NGC have examined thousands of these coins, but only a select few have achieved the highest grades possible. These elite examples are immediately pursued by serious collectors who understand that true rarity isn't just about how many coins were minted, it's about how many survive today in pristine, untouched condition. That is what truly drives value upward. Auction houses have time and again proven how much collectors admire the 1973 issue. A coin carefully preserved, free from imperfections, can fetch jaw-dropping results far beyond what most would imagine for a half-dollar minted in the 1970s. It is this element of surprise, when an ordinary coin achieves extraordinary status, that keeps the thrill of collecting alive. The highest recorded sale for a 1973 Kennedy half dollar in remarkable condition achieved a value of $98,000. That's nearly $100,000 for a coin that many would have overlooked, had it not been for its rarity, condition, and the strong emotions attached to the Kennedy legacy. This remarkable figure demonstrates that even coins struck in more recent decades can rise to incredible worth when the right factors align. The 1973 Kennedy half dollar proves that age alone does not define a coin's significance; its story, preservation, and appeal to collectors are just as powerful. So, the next time you come across a Kennedy half dollar, especially one from 1973, pause for a moment. Behind its familiar design could lie more than a simple piece of change. It might carry the memory of an era, the artistry of American minting, and the potential of commanding extraordinary value. For collectors and history lovers alike, the 1973 Kennedy half dollar is not just metal, it is meaning, memory, and in the rarest cases, a true treasure. So, the next time you come across a Kennedy half dollar, especially one from 1973, pause for a moment. Behind its familiar design could lie more than a simple piece of change. It might carry the memory of an era, the artistry of American minting, and the potential of commanding extraordinary value. For collectors and history lovers alike, the 1973 Kennedy half dollar is not just metal, it is meaning, memory, and in the rarest cases, a true treasure. Moving on to our final discovery of today's journey, we arrive at the 1998 Kennedy half dollar struck at the Denver Mint. At first glance, it might not stand out as anything more than a modern coin, familiar in design and composition. But as we peel back its story, this half dollar reveals layers of history, symbolism, and hidden value that transform it from a simple piece of change into something far more significant. By 1998, the Kennedy half dollar had already been in production for more than 3 decades. Born in 1964 as a national tribute to a fallen president, the coin carried with it a weight of remembrance and patriotism. Over time, it became one of the most recognizable coins in American currency, even as its role in circulation declined. In fact, by the 1990s, half dollars were rarely seen in daily commerce. Banks ordered fewer of them, businesses didn't request them, and most people simply didn't encounter them in their pocket change anymore. Yet the mint continued striking them, largely to serve collectors who wanted each year and each mint mark preserved. That's what gives the 1998 D issue its quiet but fascinating importance. It was minted at a time when these coins were no longer practical tools of trade but symbols, pieces crafted with collectors in mind. The obverse of the coin still carries Gilroy Roberts' dignified portrait of John F. Kennedy, his profile confident and commanding, his presence a reminder of a leader taken too soon. The reverse continues with Frank Gasparo's heraldic eagle, the national emblem radiating strength and pride. These designs, unchanged since 1964, had by 1998 become more than simple artwork, they had become timeless icons, linking generations of Americans to a shared moment in history. At the Denver Mint, the 1998 half dollar was struck in copper-nickel clad, as silver had long been removed from standard circulation strikes. But for collectors who craved something more traditional, the mint also offered 90% silver proofs in special sets. This variety gives 1998 a dual character: on one side, the clad circulation strike with its Denver mint mark, and on the other, proof issues that carried on the legacy of precious metal coinage. Together, they made the year memorable for Kennedy half dollar enthusiasts. Most of the 1998 D coins went straight into storage, mint sets, rolls, and collector albums, rather than into everyday spending. But even coins preserved this way are not always perfect. Toning, spots, handling marks, or light haze could easily develop over time. That's why finding a coin in flawless condition is still a challenge. Coins that retain brilliant luster, sharp detail, and absolutely minimal flaws are what collectors hunt for, because those are the pieces that truly stand apart from the rest. Rarity, in this case, is not about how many were minted, but about how many survive today in near-perfect preservation. Collectors place great importance on those pristine examples, where Kennedy's portrait shines with crisp clarity and the eagle on the reverse displays every feather and line with precision. Such coins embody not only artistry but also patience, as they have survived decades without a scratch to diminish their beauty. For some enthusiasts, the 1998 D also represents the continuation of a personal or family tradition. Many collectors who began with the Kennedy Half Dollar series in the 1960s continued adding each year's issue, keeping the story going through the decades. By the time they reached 1998, the coin was less about daily use and more about continuity, another chapter in a series that had become one of the most collected in the United States. Over the years, the 1998 D Half Dollar has become a favorite for specialists who study the fine details of the Kennedy series. They look for strong strikes, proof-like qualities, and even rare mint errors that can set one coin apart from the rest. A slight misalignment, doubling in the design, or unusual striking characteristics can turn what seems ordinary into something truly special. And now we come to the heart of the matter, its value. While most 1998 D half dollars will never be worth more than face value or a few dollars in circulated or average mint set condition, the story changes completely when we talk about top quality, immaculate pieces. A coin preserved in exceptional condition, certified at the highest grades, carries a level of rarity and appeal that collectors recognize immediately. The coin value for a 1998 D Kennedy Half Dollar in the finest state of preservation has reached an extraordinary $58,000. That is a staggering figure for a coin many would pass over without a second thought. It shows us that true value lies not only in age or metal content, but in condition, preservation, and the stories these coins carry. The 1998 D Kennedy Half Dollar stands as proof that even modern coins can hold hidden treasures, waiting for the right eyes to appreciate their worth. So as we close today's exploration with this final coin, remember that within the familiar can lie the extraordinary. The next time you see a Kennedy Half Dollar, especially one struck in 1998 at the Denver Mint, take a closer look. You just might be holding a treasure that bridges history, artistry, and incredible value. We truly appreciate you joining us on this journey through rare and remarkable coins. If you enjoyed learning about these hidden treasures, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our future discoveries. Every subscription helps us continue sharing more fascinating stories from the world of numismatics.